To buy Madden 22 coins for the 100% cheapest price on the internet with quick delivery, check out my sponsor MMOEXP by clicking the link at the top of the description and use code SWIFT at checkout for 5% off. Boys, listen up. Class is in session. This is going to be probably the most important video I've posted on the channel. Salsas and family, and today I'm coming back at you guys with another Madden 22 video on the channel, and in today's video I'm going to be showcasing the best team building strategy in Madden 22 and how every single person watching this video, whether you spend money or you don't, can build a 90 overall team in this game. Now if you're watching this video and you enjoy Madden 22 content just like this, I post a ton of stuff on the channel showing you guys how to make free coins, coin making methods, free player strategies, all that good stuff. So if you want to check out that content, click through to my channel page. I guarantee there's videos you'll enjoy, and if you don't want to miss out on future videos about those topics, hit that subscribe button down below, boys. Okay, now what we're going to be doing in this video is dividing it into two separate parts, because in my opinion, there's two absolutely vital aspects to build your Madden team. Now, the first one is going to be getting and selecting the best free players, and the second one is going to be building your team through good value buys and good value additions. Now, like I said before, let's start the video off by talking about getting and selecting the right free players in this game, because in my opinion, there's actually a really vital strategy that you need to follow to make sure you're picking the right free cards when you have the option to pick like a Nat fantasy pack or an NCAT fantasy pack. Now here's my number one principle that I like to think of when I'm making my selection of a free player. I always want to pick a card that has a lot of long-term value on my team. So what I mean by that is I want to pick a player that's going to be on my team in a week, on my team in a month, and still be contributing and still be a positive player on the team. Now in my opinion, there's kind of two ways to do this. The first one is selecting a player that has really good stats, and the second one is selecting a player at the right position. So example right here that I want to talk about is going to be Patrick Surtain. Patrick Surtain, he kind of hits both of the checklists. He's a free player right here. He's got really good stats, and he's in a position where there's a lot of long-term value, because for cornerback, you can move them to cornerback 2, you can move them to cornerback 3, you can move them to cornerback 4, and they still can contribute on your team. Whereas when we compare that to a position like tight end or a position like quarterback, those players aren't going to stay on your team all that long, because when you get a new card, they have basically no value to you. Now, another example that I want to give you guys is a player that I selected that I think was actually the best pick out of this fantasy pack, but I think a lot of people might have messed up on. Now, DeForest Buckner right here, as you guys can see, he's got really good stats. He's probably got the best stats for any of the 90s that were in the Gridiron Guardian promo, and he's also a defensive tackle, so he's gonna have some solid long-term value for me there, because I can move him to DT2, and honestly, I'm usually not that keen to buy a new defensive tackle, so I knew he was gonna be on my team for a while. But I know a lot of people, when they got that pack, were picking people like Amari Cooper, picking people like Mike Evans. Now, yes, that's a position where there could be some long-term value, because you can move them to like wide receiver 2 or wide receiver 3, but they honestly didn't have that good stats, and I feel like they would probably get replaced relatively quickly. Again, same thing kind of goes with the Jamal Adams card. Jamal Adams, he's probably going to get replaced by Cam Chancellor in the near future for me, so he doesn't have a ton of long-term value. So those are the kind of things that I'm thinking about in my head when I make a selection. I want to make sure that the players got long-term value on my team, and they'll stay on my team and be a good contributor. Those are two important things. They gotta have stats to stay on your team and be in a position where they can still contribute in maybe a week or 2 weeks. So that's what I wanted to talk about right there when it comes to making the selections. I'm not going to talk too much about getting free players. I made a full guide to every single free player you can get in this game, I think a couple of weeks ago. I'll leave that linked in the description. I would definitely recommend you guys check that video out and try and get as many of those free players as you can. But next up, let's move on to getting good value right here and making smart purchases. Now, here are a few principles that in my opinion are absolutely vital when it comes to buying players in this game. The first thing that I'm thinking about is I'm always thinking about the cheapest way possible to get a card for my team. So right here, as you guys can see, I picked up Mike Haynes at cornerback a couple of days ago, and before just buying the player on the auction block, I took a look at the price of the set to do the card. The set was cheaper, so I decided to do it that way. I would always recommend that when there's a player you want, you try and figure out the cheapest way to get it, because more often than not, there's actually a cheaper way to get the card than simply buying them on the auction block. Mike Haynes is a great example right here. Like I said before, the set was cheaper than the card, so before you go and get a player, try and figure out all the ways you can get the card, and there might be a way that's cheaper than actually buying the card on the auction block. You can save some coins right there. Now, the second key principle is you guys are always going to want to upgrade and buy players when the market is down. Now, I know sometimes you can get tempted and you can buy a card during the week when their price isn't all that cheap. I forgive you for doing that. Sometimes we want to get the most fun cards in this game, and I don't blame you at all. But when you're making upgrades to your team, I would say the general rule of thumb is you're going to want to try and get them when the market is down. So as you guys may or may not know, on Saturday, the market absolutely tanked. Like, insane how cheap it was. I made $5 5 upgrades to the team, picked up 5 new players, and the reason why I did so is because everything was so cheap. So when the market is down, it's important that you guys are making your upgrades to the team. Then I would say you're going to be saving yourself hundreds and hundreds of thousand coins by simply waiting for prices of the card to go down and taking advantage when they do go down. And then third, kind of general rule of thumb that I want to give you guys is whenever a new legend comes into the game and they have good stats, so Michael Vick and Charles Woodson, obviously those are 2 of the best legends that came into the game last week, but let's say for example next week we get some solid legends. What I'd recommend you do is you pick up some old legend players because they go down a ton on Saturdays. Now on Saturdays people pull a ton of legend fantasy packs, they pull some of the old legend players, and the prices of the legend pieces as well as just the overall highest legend cards, they go down so much. You guys can do these sets or buy these players at ridiculous prices, particularly when there's good cards that come into the game. Let's say for example we get an LT or really just any legend card that has pretty solid stats. People are going to be opening up a lot of packs, people are going to be trying to get that card, and the price of these older legends that came out maybe 2 weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago, it goes down a ton. So what I'm always doing is I'm kind of looking in that like week 3 to week 6 section of legends that came out between 3 weeks and 6 weeks ago, and I'm seeing who I want. Next week maybe I'll get John Mackey. There's a lot of good cards in here that I'm definitely considering. Jerry Rice could be a new player for the team. I did just pick up Mike Haynes, so what I recommend you do is take a look at some of these older legends because you can get them for ridiculous prices on Saturdays. And then the next thing that I want to say is I would strongly recommend you guys spend big on the positions that are important to you and kind of cut back on the positions that aren't super important. So as you guys can see, my offensive line right here, every single card is a nut. Kevin Zitler, Corey Lindsey, Eric Fisher, Elijah Vera, Tucker, Tristan Wirfs. I got all those cards for free. Power Up Pass on Wirfs, these other 88s for free, and then the Rookie Premier card was free as well. And then what I did is I spent a lot of coins on my running back, Cordero Patterson right here. In my opinion, he might be the best running back in the game. He's got 92 speed when you power him up. I had to spend a hefty amount of coins on him, but I was able to spend those coins because I didn't spend a lot of coins on my O-line. Now moving on to the defense, for the linebacker court right here, Derek Thomas, Roquan Smith, Miles Jack, Bud Dupree, all these cards are free or super cheap, so that allowed me to spend coins on Sean Taylor, that allowed me to spend coins on Mike Haynes, who in my opinion are more important positions than middle linebacker and DT. So when you guys go to spend those coins and you figure out the cheapest way to get your card, you figure out the best day to buy your player, I would recommend you guys spend big on the players and positions that are important to you and don't spend a ton on those positions that aren't going to affect the game as much, like offensive line, defensive line still can, middle linebacker, you don't want to be spending a lot on that. So those are going to be my tips for you guys to build you a dominant team. As you guys can see, no money spent, my team's at 89, I got 1.1 milli coins in the bank, and by following all those strategies, that has allowed me to build this team at such a cheap price, and still have so many coins left over, and still actually be relatively competitive. 89, it's not like the best team you can have. If you spend money, I'm sure you got a 90 or 91, but if you don't spend a lot of money, this is definitely like one of the best free teams you can possibly get, and I'm just loving the way it looks right here. So hopefully you guys have enjoyed that video. If it did, drop a like down below, hit that sub button if you did find this one entertaining, informative. I'd greatly appreciate it, because there's more content where this came from. So yeah, that's gonna do it for me. Hope you guys have enjoyed, and until next time lads, I'm out. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Peace.